In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. My dear friend, I just hope that you're well. I always like to start with the sign of the cross because that is the identity of a Catholic. If we have never met, which is a possibility, I am FatherCK, Father Charles Kenywa, from the Archdiocese of Nyeri, but now working with and for the Catholic Bishops of Kenya at KCCB, Commission for Social Communications, in charge of Radio Waumini 88.3 FM. I have been journeying with the couples before and after marriage. I have been in marriage counseling now for close to 13 years. And I felt that it is important I share with you some information that is very important that we need to know just before you say, I do. I'll do this in 3 areas. Area number 1 is the questions that you need to ask yourself just before you start the journey to marriage. Then area number 2 is the aspects to be considered. And then area number 3 is what I call FatherCK's 10 points of consideration just before you get married. It is my hope that later we'll be able to have part 2, part 3, and part 4 as we work on towards this ministry towards our families. It is my belief and desire to see that our marriages are working. Just before you get married, the following 8 questions you need to ask them, and you find an answer. If you don't ask these 8 questions plus, and you get their answer, chances are, at some point on your journey towards marriage, you may find yourself stuck. Question number 1. Why do I want to get married? Why do I want to get married? Question number 2. Why now? Why now? Question number 3. Why do I want to get married to this person? Okay? And question number 4. Do I feel secure in the presence of this person? Do I feel secure? Myself and my information. Okay? Question number 5. How spiritually connected are we? How spiritually connected are we? Question number 6. Who will be the leader and controller of our marriage? Who will be the leader and controller of our marriage? A very important question from day 1. Question number 7. Do we want to start our journey in the church or not, and why? Do we need or do we want to start our journey in the church? Yes, why? No, why? And the last question on this category is, how much do I know of the person I am getting married to? How much do I know of the person I am getting married to? My friend, the 8 questions helps you now to be in a position to start your journey to preparing yourself for marriage. Having done that, Then you look at you go to section number 2, as I did promise. In section number 2, the 4 areas that needs to be discussed long before you get married. Area number 1 is sex. My dear friend, sometimes we don't talk about sex. And at the end of it all, it becomes our problem. Area number 2 is finances. Area number 3 is religion. And area number 4, friends stroke in-laws. Those 4 areas. Let me briefly look at each. Why is sex so important in marriage? This question needs to be answered by understanding what marriage is. Ultimately, marriage is for companionship and holiness. Companionship, part of it is sexual life. And today, this moment, I can tell you, as your priest and servant, marriage without sex is a dead marriage. Right now, maybe even you who is watching this DVD, you may be in what we call a sexless marriage or a forced celibacy marriage, for whatever reason. Quite a good number of us are socialized to believe that sex ni tabia baya. Kwa hivyo, we don't discuss sex before getting married. In fact, we feel quite uncomfortable anytime the topic of sex comes up. Right now, it is sex that is actually leading quite a good number of our marriages in their discontent. It is so bad. What we did not discuss, what we thought was not important, is what is eating us today. It is important. A young man and a young woman takes time to discuss this question of sex. In this question of sex, discuss even what makes you happy in your sexual encounter. Remember, you are becoming husband and wife and in charge of each other's nakedness. So why should you be afraid to talk about sex with a person who will be seeing your nakedness? I mean, honestly. Also discuss children, the spacing and the sex and quite a number of things. On this, I can talk about it over and over and over again, even for countless number of years, but it is important. Area number 2, finances. Remember, if you enter into marriage without knowing, for example, who will be paying which bills, do we need a joint account? How much is my husband earning? How much is my wife earning? How much is our total income as a couple? What are the family vote heads? What takes more priority? And then we agree from day one. For you, you'll be doing this and this and this. And then on my side, I will do this and this and that. In the absence of that, I can tell you, you are entering into a dangerous zone, because money at some point will define who you are. And largely, money defines and dictates how some men behave. It is important that we understand this question of money. Let us know, how much does my husband earn? How much is my wife earning? What are our vote heads? Who pays which bill? Once we do this, do we need a joint account? The reason why finances is very, very important to be discussed, because largely at some point, money defines how we behave, especially in men. Some men change when money comes. You may have seen or heard a couple that started in a very humble way, but as they moved up, a lot of money came. The man who was so good becomes a completely different thing. Do you know why? Because some men are controlled by the amount of money they have, and their behavior is dictated by the amount of money they have. When this man didn't have money, he was so loyal, he was so faithful, he was so available. Right now, money has come. The man is arrogant, absent, and brutal. It's a tragedy. From day one, discuss it. And I can tell you for a fact, before God and His Holy Church, quite a good number of our marriages that are struggling today financially, they never discussed finances from day one. The other thing, number 3, is religion. Why religion? Because religion shapes our perspective. I am one priest who is so much opposed to people getting married to the person of a different religion if this is not discussed and agreed. Because what happens is that once we get married, we start looking at things differently. And what we are likely to end up in is a situation we call in marriage Jerusalem, Jericho paradigm, where the husband is facing north and the wife is facing south. There comes a time when the husband speaks, he talks about what our pastor said, what our priest said. The wife is talking about what our priest said, what our pastor said. They cannot agree in principle. Why? Because religion is such a big thing. It actually shapes how we look at life and even our worldview. And religion is in charge of a quite huge percentage of family breakup today. If you are listening to me now and you are from different religion, look at how you agree on some issues. And if the differences in religion was not discussed when you are a boyfriend and a girlfriend, chances are today the battle you have is real and it could be permanent, unless you want to sit down and discuss religion. It is something that you do not take for granted. It is also important because religion helps us to bring up our children as a team. When the husband is going to church A and the wife is going to church B, children can get lost in between, especially when two are not agreeing. There are those who want to go with a daddy's church, others mommy's church. There comes a time even harnessing their discipline becomes difficult. Why? Because in our church, we do this. In our church, we do this. My dear friend, think about religion. Teach your sons and your daughters before they get married to talk about religion. The last on this category is friends stroke in-laws. Between the husband and wife, there is a space we call emotional space. That space can be affected by persons or things. Persons can be your own mother, your own dad, your own brother, your own sister, or even a very close friend. That is why it is important to ask, shall we give our friends prominence? You know why? Because today we have so many marriages that are shaky because friends came in and broke our marriage. Today, We have so many marriages where parents are puppeteering their children. A man got married, but the mother never released him. So what is happening? The mother is always babysitting the son who has a family, such that everything that happens in this marriage, the mother must ratify. Tutahama lini? Tuulize mam. Tutanunua shamba wapi? Tuulize mam. Watoto watasomea wapi? Tuulize mam. What about the next investment? Tuulize mam. Hata tutazaa lini? Tuulize mam. This is a tragedy. We have in other instances where the wife is in the pocket either of her dad or a certain brother or a sister, such that the husband is only there as a rubber stamp. It is so sad. We even have situations where girls are doing investments with their dads, and this lady is actually married, and the husband is treated just like a scrap of humanity. After all, he doesn't have the money like my dad. This is a tragedy. Agree from day one where your friends will be and where your in-laws will be. Remember, anytime the emotional space is occupied by either a person or a thing, then that marriage is dead. Kabisa. Having said that, then we look at now category 3. In category 3, we are actually looking at the 10 points, FatherCK's 10 points that need to be discussed before one gets married. What are those FatherCK's 10 points? Point number 1, family history. Point number 2, birth placement. Point number 3, timing. Point number 4, type of friends. Point number 5, quality of dreams. Point number 6, your motivation. Point number 7, his or her view on sex. Point number 8, his or her view on work. Point number 9, capacity to handle difficult situations. And point number 10, capacity to handle finances. Those 10 points need to be discussed, and you have enough information about them before you commit. Let me briefly look at how at each one of them and what is so important in each of these points. Let us start with the family history. Why is family history very important? Family history is very important because what runs in our family can come to haunt us later in our marriage life. For example, there are 4 areas, threads, we call them threads. There are 4 threads that runs in the family that can actually be inherited by a child and taken to the next step in marriage. One area is mambo ya uchawi. Mambo ya uchawi. Sometimes that runs in the family. Issue number 2 is theft. Mambo ya wizi. Some of these are taken by some names in the family. You might find in a certain family that everybody who is given this name is actually a thief. The issue number 3 is issues of sexual nature. We call them sexual sins. For example, if a girl is marrying from a family where the father of the boy is an international sower, the man who sires children everywhere on earth, chances are the husband must end up like that, or you may give birth to a child who will take after the guka, if you like it. Area number 4 is alcoholism. This is actually genetic. It runs in the blood. That is why you need to understand family history, so that you can say, I know all this about this girl. I will marry her, all that notwithstanding. I have known all this about this young man. I will marry him, all that notwithstanding. If you get married in a family that you do not know, that is what FatherCK calls getting married with your eyes closed. When you get married with your eyes closed, marriage has a way of opening your eyes, and it is actually a tragedy. Birth placement. This is where you ask yourself, it's about being a firstborn, a lastborn, a middle child, an only boy in a girl's family, an only girl in a boy's family, an adopted child, a firstborn in a blended family, a lastborn in a blended family. Those are the issues that you may need to check. On this, you may realize that the way how we are placed in our birth order more often than not affects also how we look at issues and sometimes how we think and relate. For example, if you are a firstborn and you are getting married to a firstborn, you may have issues of submission, because largely firstborns have a problem of submission. Firstborns more often are perfectionists. So you may be fighting quite a lot because you do not have that humility. In fact, a marriage between a firstborn and a firstborn has issues of humility. And quite a good number of those marriages end up in divorce, unfortunately. But when they are well prepared, they may have no problem. A marriage between a middle child and a middle child, for example, is clouded with what we call pettiness. Middle children, apart from being perpetual complainers, they can really be so petty. So you may be in a marriage that is so petty, you are fighting over so small things, but you never knew. In fact, you are never told that middle children behave in this way and this way. Something very good about middle children is that largely they are peacemakers. And that is what holds their marriage. Marriage between a lastborn and a lastborn has its own challenges, because lastborns have their own challenges. For example, issues of laziness, issues of lack of boundaries in friends, issues of not taking responsibility, issues of recklessness in sex and in work, all those issues. But it's important that you know that. If you're marrying a girl that is the only child in a family, also be prepared. Also be prepared that because that child comes as a package, because rarely will the parent of this girl actually release her totally. Those are the issues that we need to know on that. In fact, again, on that we can talk over and over and over again. Then the other thing is timing. What do I mean by timing? This is where you get married so early in life. I know personally I discourage girls being married at so young in life. It is not quite advisable from FatherCK's perspective to get married as a girl when you are not at least 24. At least 24, you need to be more mature, because at 24, you must have finished your first degree, you have worked kidogo, and you have seen people making mistakes. And maybe you have also done your own mistakes. Getting married at such a tender age, it's actually missing some chunk of your life as a young girl. Again, don't get married when you're so old doesn't add up. For the boy, the same. Don't get married when you are again so young or again so old. It is not good. So timing in marriage is like everything. After timing, we look at the quality of threads that you keep. What are the quality of threads that you keep? That's very, very important. The quality of threads tells you that maybe if you have threads that are not very, very good, and in fact, you need to ask, how much do I know all the threads of my husband to be? Are there those that I am not very comfortable with? Have I talked about it to him? Do I know all the threads of my girlfriend? Are there that I'm not so much comfortable with? Have I told her to that end? Then from there, we talk about motivation. Why are you getting married? What is motivating you into getting married? Are you circumventing a curse? Are you getting married to make a statement? Are you getting married because you had a covenant with some friends? Why are you getting married? Are you getting married because you are running away from a problem at home? Are you running at home because there is a certain lacuna, there is a certain space in your life that needs to be filled? Maybe you never had a dad, so you're looking for a dad in life. That's why you're getting married. Maybe you were never treated very well by your mom, so you're looking a mother in marriage. Why are you getting married? Your motivation, very important. Quality of dreams. Where are you headed? What is your vision in life? What is your mission? Where are you headed? Because as a man, if you are getting married and you have no vision, we have a problem. Because your wife may have nothing to come and submit to. She comes with her vision. You come with your vision. You fuse the two. Once you fuse the two, then you are able to come up with a family vision. On this, when you come with a family vision, then you are able to ask, where is it that we are headed as a couple? Very, very important. Having said that, then you look at this important area, his or her view on sex. You may need to ask. For example, if a girl tells you, for me, sex is children, then there you have a problem. What does it mean? Because the moment you'll have the children that you wanted, for her, sex imeisha. So this must be clarified from day one. His or her view on work. Then you have a problem. Are you getting married to a man who doesn't like to work? A man who wants to be provided for all the time? Are you getting married to a girl who believes that men should provide everything? That is the question. Having done that, then we look at the capacity to get out of a difficult situation. When we are caught up in a mess, are we people who just run into suicide? Are we people who just run to mganga? Tukatafute prophet? Ama tukalipe pesa ya mganga somewhere? How do you get out of your difficult situation? And the last thing is capacity to handle finances. Remember, in our category 1, we talked about finances. It's also good now to ask here, how do we handle our finances? Is your man capable of getting money and using it on the intended goals? Is your wife always getting money and taking them home for her mother or her dad or others to help her manage? How do you manage your finances? Very, very important. We have men and women who have a problem handling money. You give them money, money gets lost, and they do not even know how that money actually got lost. And that becomes a tragedy, and a big, big tragedy for that matter. Having said that, the 3 areas is actually what you need to know exactly whether you are getting married and whether you are ready for marriage. If you can be able to get that information, my dear friend, then you can enter into marriage and then give the whole journey to God. Sometimes you say that, no, you see, we need prayers for our families to work. That is okay. By the way, I have no problem with that. But I am one priest who encourages people not just to pray. Don't just pray. In marriage, I can tell you for a fact, prayer alone is not enough. We even say in Latin, ora et labora. Ora et labora. It is praying and working. If you are a husband and you have a problem of drinking, prayer alone is not enough. Pray about it and stop drinking. Pray and stop. Pray and stop going to areas that are your occasions of sin and get over that. If you are a wife and you have a problem of a sick tongue, such that when you talk, either you are so vulgar or you are just so bad with your tongue, prayer alone is not important. Pray and tame your tongue. Pray and seek for the healing of your tongue. That is what I'm talking about. Dear men and women, mothers and dads, please do not allow your sons and daughters to repeat the same mistakes you made before you got married. And just before I conclude this part 1 of our journey towards marriage, allow me to make the following comments. Comment number 1. Every marriage can work if the players are well informed and prepared. Every marriage, for sure, every marriage can work if the players in this marriage are well informed and well prepared. Point number 2. In marriage, husbands and wives are not made for one another. They are both made for God. You may have heard this lie, especially being given by men, that you are made for me. It is not true. Both of you are made for God. My point number 3, marriages are not made in heaven. There are people who say that, our marriage was made in heaven. No, there is no marriage that is made in heaven. Marriages are made here and lived here with the help of God. Kwa hivyo, msijidanganye na usidanganywe ya kwamba the marriage you are entering into, kitambo sana, it was made in heaven. It is not true. And my point number 4, people don't get married for children and happiness. No, they get married for companionship and holiness. In fact, marriage, as we'll see later in our part 2 and 3, is a way of us connecting with God because it reflects the love that God has for us, humanity. Meaning, therefore, that the marriage you are in is actually a path of knowing God more and living well as a Christian in all that you do. Very, very important. So through marriage, you become holy. Marriage, my point number 5, marriage is a triad. A union of husband, wife, and God. Please note, the more people you bring in your marriage, however much you are not agreeing, the more the possibility of your breakup. So even when you have a problem, don't go telling everybody. Don't call the whole village, the whole estate, the whole church to come and listen to the problems that you have. The more you bring them, the more people you bring, the more avenues you are opening for a breakup. So, if it is possible that it can be done between you and your spouse and God, the better. If you must get the third person to come and listen to you, limit the people who will listen to your fighting. I want to add with this. It is my conviction as FatherCK that our marriages can work. Our marriages